Exactly.
We do have some board members that are going to be just a little bit delayed, and I did want you to know who else. Terry McClements, who's the partner in charge of PricewaterhouseCoopers, is on the line. And Claude Bailey, who's a partner at Venable, is going to be a little bit delayed. And Michelle Rice with TV1, who's also a county resident, will be a little bit late as well. And so we wanted you to know at least the breadth and depth of what's here at United Way.
Yeah, I didn't realize, the members of the board, but it's what a great board. I have stories about almost all of them. So Claude, I used to hang out at his house when I was an undergrad. So when he gets here, tease him. And of course, Michelle, I know from years here. And of course, Rosie. So, well, thank you. Did Jim Coleman speak yet?
No, he
Not
has
yet?
not.
Oh, good. If you're asleep when he comes in here, you'll be awake. And Rosie knows him well. There's a couple of things, and I won't be long. I want to, first of all, thank you for all the great work that you're doing in Prince George's County. It's really helpful to us, especially me. A couple of things. I'll just say this. I've known United Way and participate since actually coming out of law school. 2 years out, I worked for a nonprofit in Washington, D.C. And of course, we were one of the recipients of United Way funding in D.C., trying to do things like community development, social services. We ran I told him this, I went to law school to get the experience so I could run a clothing shelter and, a food pantry. And my boss said I'm almost qualified for it at the time. But the United Way had been a partner of ours, a significant partner along with the DC government, so we could provide those services to the community. And I look back, when I go into the district sometimes, I look at the neighborhoods I worked in and the changes that we were able to make. And other than this job, that was one of the most significant periods of my time. My wife and I both were working in nonprofit world, so we knew United Way well. And then coming here in Prince George's County and the challenges we were facing when I came into office almost 5.5 years ago. Having people who were willing to take a chance on us and believe in us. Many of your individual businesses did that, especially in the banking and the healthcare industry, were willing to do that. But also the United Way was there. They did not, you did not at any point, question whether in fact this county was going to survive the issues we were going through. And you're here now. We feel really good about where we are. We can talk about some of the development that's going on in the county. I'm sure Jim will highlight the fact that there's between $5 to $7 billion worth of development that's going to go on in Prince George's County. But what's unique about it is, in the past, it's been in individual places. You can go to National Harbor and say, wow, it's great down there. Or you could go to Bowie and look at some of the things that were happening there. But this time in the county, you can go to every single park. Right, Steve? If you're down in Brandywine, which I didn't know where it was when I first was in the House of Delegates, Glad, because it's a long way from Cheverly. From Brandywine all the way up to Laurel, to what's going on in Bowie, to College Park, you think about that. The Purple Line was a thought when I was in the legislature in 1994. Now it's going to happen. Thanks to the work we're pushing hard on that. That will help our development expand. Our bank stayed with us as partners. You look at University of Maryland, a flagship university, and for a long time didn't really have a signature right there on one of the busiest corridors in the Washington region. And we were able to now start doing development there with the Hillman Hotel that's going to come. David Hillman and his group are doing a hotel there and conference center. The other development that's happening along that area. Well, when you come in from the Big Ten to play at University of Maryland, you're going to see this whole change. Places you can go, Whole Foods and things like that. And next time Howard comes, we're going to make sure we elevate some of our players, so or at least they take it a little easier. But it's good in the fact that we're starting to see that the region. It's something Jim we've talked about for a long time. You've led the effort on we're the Washington region. And I think that's one of the things we've tried to do in this administration is say, you know what, we really are. So when we think about development, we should think about it in terms of being the Washington region. And if you look at our focus from our money and our resources in the county, we put it around, you know, if this was the Glendening administration, he would say you put it around smart growth. We put it around our metro centers and close to the District of Columbia. And that is because, one, they were our most challenging neighborhoods, but they were also the ones that had the greatest potential. So in the development part, I'll leave it with this. One of my, you know, favorite place, and people know it because, you know, all three of my children went to high school there, and that's Suitland. We put a lot of time and effort into Suitland because, you know, if you think about the potential of what's happening in the district, a critical mass of government workers there in the metro. If we do a couple of things right, that becomes U Street, H Street, what you've seen in the District of Columbia. You're a stone's throw away from the nation's capital, but you have to get public safety right, which we're doing. You have to invest time. You have to get the education system right. And so all of those things are happening, and that's going to be one of our flagship development. The other thing I'm proud of, and you know, I want to thank MedStar for investing in the county. But we made a real commitment. You know, in the past, county executives have said, you know, that, and I was elected in 2002 when I first ran. I just said the same thing. But look, yeah, I wasn't elected, so I got a chance to see the landscape change, and that is most elected officials run on public safety, education, economic development. We changed that paradigm. It was when we got into office and we saw the problems we were facing in this county in public safety and education, it really was centered around health and access to quality health throughout the entire 500 square miles. And we immediately said what we want to do is see how we can make that connection. And so we elevated health. And I think, you know, I'm not out of school in saying that for the first time, you saw the county council actually acting as the Board of Health in ways of not just, you know, having a meeting and saying we have it, but actually participating in how we talk about the disparities in health in the county. How do we connect with the health institutions and clinics that are here? And that has helped us because what it has allowed us to do is to see changes in our public safety, in our education, to provide the residents of the county more options out here, that they don't have to go in the District of Columbia. There are options right here that's going to help them where they need it. We expanded, one of the things we did in the county was we expanded, when I came on, there was one dental health bus that went inside our inner beltway communities, our challenging communities. By the time, you know, we're here in the 5th year, we've expanded that to 20 buses and 9 that I think are permanent, that are going out there not just to help the kids that are in the schools, but also the parents that come there. So that's something I think, you know, it's going to be a real legacy here. The other thing, and I'll close with this, that we talk a lot about, you know it in your business, that you can't do everything. You know, you don't have enough people or enough resources to do all the great things that you want to do. So we've run this county with that philosophy at Like a Business is, one, we want to be customer friendly. We want to get to yes. So if you come and work with us, we're always trying to get to yes. But the third thing is, where can we make the greatest impact in the time that we're given? You know, whether that's 4 years or 8 years, where can we make the greatest impact with the limited resources we have? Because nobody, you know, called me up, and I'll check my messages, but no one called up and said, would you please raise my taxes? You know, we want to give you some more money. So clearly they want me to use what I have there and to be, you know, judicious with it. So what we decided to do was say, you know, this is a fairly wealthy county, but we have pockets of poverty and challenges. Where are those? And if you look at it at the beginning of the administration, we looked at, there were 6 areas. We had our CEO at the time Brad Seaman, who came in from the business, never worked in government, came straight from the business, and we had him as CEO, and he came in, did some change, and went back to business. But what he said was, he took out a map and he looked at the county and said, there were 6 areas in the county that if they changed overnight, Prince George's County would not only be one of the wealthiest African-American communities in the world, but one of the wealthiest communities there is. But those 6 areas, which happen to be right near the District of Columbia, right, if we could change the dynamics in those areas, then the county as a whole would rise up. And we decided to do that. It's called our Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative, which United Way has worked hand in hand with us on. And it said to the county council members, all 9 of them from individual districts, we're not going to be able to spend county resources everywhere. We're going to target on these areas, because if we change them, change the dynamics there, then the whole county would rise up. Now, when I said that, and you're an individual from, from Laurel or from Bowie, they were like, whoa, you mean you're going to spend some of our money up here, right? I said, no, we're not going to stop. We're going to help. We're going to redo how we do development up there. But really, the bulk of our resources, our connections with our nonprofits, are going to be in these areas, because that's what's keeping us back. And that was nearly 4 years ago. What we've seen in each one of those areas, the tide is changing. And especially if you have banks in those areas, you can see that if it's whether it's East Riverdale, Bladensburg, and the development that's coming around there, whether it's the Oxon Hill area with National Harbor and the things that are happening there, and MGM coming, and Tanger Outlet, and those impact they're having. What we've now seen is that many of our, Langley Park. Langley Park is going to be one of the hottest. It's one of the hottest areas now, but we've seen the changes there. And it's because we've invested the limited resources we have and targeted in ways that we can change the communities. And I think the legacy we hope to leave when I leave this office in 2018 is that the county will be on not only better footing, but will be sustainable, so that when the United Way comes in and partners with us or asks us to help, that we can do it in a way that's going to outlive, the Baker administration and hopefully your tenure here on the board. With that, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So, are there any questions for Mr. Baker?
Sure. What's the biggest challenge you face? It's a great vision. You're working it hard. You accomplished a lot. And as you talk about limited resources and limited time, wherever that might take you. So what's the biggest challenge in finishing it in the way that you'd want right now?
I think, it's no secret, and you're here about, the biggest challenge we have in the county is still our public school system. We've made great strides. We have a terrific superintendent. Our test scores are up, but still making sure that people feel comfortable putting their children into our public school system, because, as you know, that's the glue to having those communities as a whole. So that's one of the biggest challenges we have. The other is, making sure around public safety. Very proud that, violent crime in the county continues to go down. I check it every morning. It's not as scary as it was in the beginning, but it's still not where we'd like it to be. And I think those 2 areas are ones that we're going to continue to work on.
To pick up on that, the District of Columbia has the shot spotter cameras technology. They put a pretty significant amount into public safety. They actually have now there's surveillance cameras in downtown areas. There's hot spots, so a bit of the city stats that were brought down from Maryland as well. How, in terms of coordination with the District of Columbia, do you think it could be done as well as you want it to be done? And then maybe just a little bit of an observation on where are you seeing some of the changes? Is it synthetic drugs? Is it heroin? Is it violent crime? Or is it more as it relates to what I kind of call the quality of life, broken mirrors and broken windshields?
Well, I think the quality of life stuff, the broken mirror stuff, we've dealt with. Let me just say, we worked very, very well with Kathleen there in the district. I mean, from day one of, as soon as I was elected, she came out here to the county, sat down with me and helped me, think through what a police chief in Prince George's County is gonna face and what I should be looking for in that. And that was part that helped me pick Mark McGaw as our police chief and now Hank Stawinski. So the work with the district has always been great. I think what we suffered from, and Glenn would know this, as well as I do, is that, coordination with both the district, the federal, and everyone else. To be brutally honest, working with Mamata was a huge problem when we came in terms of our police and theirs, and the number of incidents that were happening in the county on the metro system. Getting them to understand that simply saying, well, it's not really the Prince George's County, it's really happening in our metro system, and getting them to understand that, listen, nobody cares. The report says Prince George's County. And with the work of Mark McGaw and Hank Stawinski, that's changed. And with the work of the District of Columbia, because they've been real partners in that, in convincing them. Quite honestly, the Mayor Bowser, gets a lot of credit for it by putting pressure on them. They understood, it's great if you think you can handle it, but you can't. And so we should work together. So that has been really good for us. And where I've seen the greatest changes is 5 years ago, there's no way people would have listened to me about doing development in Suitland. The first thing would have been that the crime is too bad. But now we can do it because we've seen the changes there and working with them across the border. We're going to do some great stuff in not just at National Harbor, but in the Oxon Hill area, the 210 corridor going over to the District of Columbia, because the dynamics have changed. The greatest challenge around public safety that I see is the drugs. We're now starting to see increase with spillovers around drugs. So if, drugs, and then, so we're starting to see some of the violent crimes around that area, and we're working with the district and the federal government on it. The other area that we're all working together on, and Montgomery County and the district have been great partners, is around domestic violence. Even during the time when we saw homicides cut 33% in 1 year in the county, 13 of the homicides we saw that year were around domestic violence. So that tells us it's a health issue, because the police show up, they investigate, they arrest. Something's happening in the homes that are there. And it is a knowing where to turn issue. Most folks around domestic violence are not going to turn to the county. They may turn to the faith community, may turn to relatives. And so how do we get the message out there that there is help, that we can, both from a health standpoint and from a social service, family services. So those are the areas that I've asked them to look at, and that's got to be coordinated, from a region. Because what happens is we'll find that people will start in Virginia, go to the district, come to Prince George's County, they may shoot up to Montgomery County, come back to the county, go back to the district, and they're taking their children with them. So these issues can't be solved, and I think when Mayor Gray was there, health was one of the areas where we were working on. That's the same thing with drug issues. If there's a drug problem in the District of Columbia, we got it. So people who think you can, as I told them from the very beginning of my administration, there is no Berlin Wall or no Trump Wall. You ain't getting one of. People go back and forth. And so that means we have to work with our partners and resources.
I guess a lot of the charitable giving in the region goes to DC, and the state goes to Baltimore, and I know that sometimes the individual giving, wealthier individuals frequently live in other places. What sorts of things could the United Way do and other leaders in the charitable community to help provide additional resources to here in Prince George's County?
Yeah, I think, and I want to thank United Way and thank you, Glenn, for that question. One of the big frustrations for me, just coming into Prince George's County, even as a delegate, was, and this, we both came from the district, You know, my wife worked on the Hill, Glenn worked on the Hill. So our focus was DC. And even with our church services and things, it was DC based until we had more than one child, and then became Prince George's County based. But our giving still, you know, was surrounded by the District of Columbia. And a lot of that had to do with the quality and sustainability of the nonprofits here in the county to do the things that need to be done, even if you gave them the resources. And part of it was the willingness of the giving community, even those who lived in Maryland, to understand the need is here. That has changed. United Way was one of the first organizations to say, okay, we're going to focus on, you know, Prince George's County and working together. But in order to really have an impact, that means the folks here need to also give. And so we looked up and we said, well, maybe it's because, you know, Montgomery County is much wealthier than we are. People in the District of Columbia are used to giving. I know we give. We're charitable people. You know, as Obama in the first campaign, you know, we give and we give, but what we don't do is have our thinking change with it, the focus. So, you know, I think the way we can help, and certainly you've done that, and we're gonna do a better job at it. You know, this is one where, that's a good question for probably for me to end on, is I was in a meeting with LeVon Thomas, who, you know, spearheads our nonprofit, and Glenda Wilson, my chief of staff, and we just talked about what have we done over the last 5 years working with the nonprofit community and strengthening them and making sure people give here. And we started off like gangbusters. You know, we did a nice retreat. We brought everybody together, you know, to make sure there's quality. And then, like with you in businesses, you know, life got in the way. You know, snowstorm, a hurricane, an earthquake, homicides, you know, these things. And we never circled back to, well, when an emergency happens, how do we deal with those families? You know, when that earthquake happens, where do they go? How do we make sure? And so what we dedicated ourselves to doing is, one, really working hard with all of you over these next 2 years to lay the foundation for the next administration. And the other thing is to leave a blueprint for how we reach out to make sure people are giving, but also the counties, you know, and this is going to happen, so I want everybody in this room, you know, this being taped, I hope so, you know, write this down. Rashawn Baker was county executive, because the next county executive is going to have resources. It won't be here in time enough for me, you know, but they will. I mean, all these economic development projects are coming in, so there's going to be resources that you can actually put toward this. And so what I said to them yesterday was, there's got to be a blueprint. And we would love for United Way to help us with that blueprint for the next administration, saying, here's what you can do more. Here's what the county council can do more. Because there will actually be resources coming in to do that. And so that's our commitment to working with you.